I want to know exactly what this is, and I'm not satisfied with just, oh, it's goo made from monsters. No. I want to know exactly what this guy is selling me. That way, I can make monster stew in real life while keeping it as authentic as possible. I want to make Nana here proud, so that way if she were to ever taste my creation, she would think, yes, that is exactly what we had in the old country. That's going to be made in the second video, but for this video, I want to share everything that I learned about monster extract. First of all, Kilton is a self-described monster enthusiast and monster researcher. He will trade you any of his creations, including monster extract, well, in exchange for basically monster parts. I find it hard to accept that he created the extract because he'd have to be well over 100 years old when the calamity happened, and tack on however much time it took to research and develop the product, which I assume he'd begin as an adult, and we're looking at Kilton having to be at least 120 years old. Then look at his other wares. They're all very shoddy and delicate, yet the vial the extract is kept in is beautifully crafted with detailing reminiscent of the royal family of Hyrule. Manari's grandmother ran a bakery for the royal family, and she passed on her recipe of monster cake to Manari. And there is a secret cookbook which includes a recipe for monster cake found in Hyrule Castle. I'm not ready to say that Kilton isn't the true creator for monster extract, it's just hard to believe it right now. Okay, so what does monster extract do to my food and why are people using it? Apparently, the spice can be used to punch up dishes while cooking. It's noted in another cookbook written by Chef Ari Tamu, who explains it can be used to boost the effects of any dish that it has been added to. However, you never really know quite how the dish will turn out. Sometimes it will raise the effect by a lot, and other times, well, not so much. For some reason, when this ingredient is added to a dish, it can, for example, increase the amount of hearts a dish can heal by a great amount, but only sometimes. And that's about as much as we can be certain with monster extract. A lot of it is hidden in mystery, but there appears to be additional benefits and side effects to consuming it. Ruli's little girl, Honey, was struck with some kind of sickness, which is why the family moved to this town. Once given monster cake, Honey is miraculously cured the next morning. It could have been just Honey finally eating something that helped. She was too picky to eat anything besides cake after all. However, that does mean that other cakes didn't cure her. It was specifically monster extract that restored her to health. So there seems to be some kind of strong medicinal component to the extract. In the Royal Family Secret Cookbook, it cautions readers that monster cake may make your head fuzzy and give you evil thoughts. At first glance, it seems like an innocuous Easter egg referencing Chancellor Cole from Spirit Tracks, but what if there's an actual side effect to be wary of? It doesn't affect Link, but this guy's like no other Hylian. He was able to best a trained adult knight when he was just a child. The only other person that has been confirmed to eat monster cake is Honey, and honestly, she's a little bit of a maybe that's the monster cake affecting her, or maybe she's just a spoiled kid. Who knows? Initially, when I looked through the descriptions for the various monster dishes, I was pretty confused how an extract could taste so differently. Monster cake is incredibly sweet, monster soup is gamey, and monster stew is savory. But actually, when you consider monster extract as a flavor enhancer, it makes sense why these dishes taste so radically different. When the game says the extract can punch up dishes, it will bring out the expression of the flavors in the dish, much how like salt brings out the flavors in foods. Monster soup has a distinct gaminess because it's being pulled from goat butter. I've never had goat butter, but if it's anything like goat cheese, I'm sure it's very gamey. In addition to being a flavor enhancer, the extract is quite pungent. Monster cake and monster rice have both been described as being very stinky. It seems to me that monster extract is some kind of purified form of malice. To begin with, Chabi confirms that monster extract is created from monsters. All monsters contain malice, and some of it is released when killed. Both monster extract and malice are visually similar. Both are purple and they have this constant flowing motion. Malice can take on a gaseous state or a liquid state, as explained by the game, that these poisonous bugs are water sullied by Malice. The animation in Monster Extract looks like it's flowing upwards, as if it's being pulled into the air like Malice evaporating into air. When enough Malice collects in the air, there is enough power to be used for resurrections in a Blood Moon event. These Blood Moons have only been appearing for the past 100 years, which coincides with Calamity Ganon's return, and he's the one using that extra power to resurrect monsters. Speaking of which, this means Malice has extreme restorative properties. Maybe some of that healing magic remains in Monster Extract, which explains how Honey was cured of her illness. And that could be why Link can heal much further with monster dishes. Now, that's great and all, but keep in mind that this is Malice, a dangerous substance that in previous games has been able to cause fainting, memory loss, and jinxes. If Monster Extract is Malice, it seems not all of its dangers were removed, made evident by Monster Cake instilling evil thoughts in people. Both Monster Extract and Malice possess extreme healing properties then, and serious bodily harm. If that's not enough to convince you that these two are related, what if I told you that the biggest connection tying the two is that they are both able to heal Link by a random amount of hearts? As previously mentioned, all monsters contain Malice, and even though there is no way to measure how much Malice is in each monster, there is still enough that gets left behind upon death. There are a couple monsters which could be comprised of greater amounts of Malice. The first are Poes, which are spirits of concentrated hate. When defeated, Poes can be bottled and then sold to the Poe collector, but for some reason Link can instead drink the bottled Poe. I don't know why, but drinking a spirit was programmed into the game, and doing so heals or damages Link by a random amount of hearts. The other monster worth mentioning are purple choo-choos found in Twilight Princess. They too can be bottled and consumed for a random effect. It will either damage Link by a single heart or drain his health down to a quarter of a heart, or restore one heart, or restore all hearts. Perhaps purple choo-choos have more Malice within them, and that's why they're purple. Some choo-choos can take on their environment, as seen in Breath of the Wild. When they're hit with an element, their remains take on the form of that element. Drinking these raw forms of Malice are, as far as I'm aware, the only items to affect Link's hearts by a random amount, just like Monster Extract. As a quick recap, Monster Extract is likely some alternative form to Malice. They are, like I said, visually similar. They both seem to evaporate. They both have distinct random restorative properties, and they both have some adverse effects on the body. Concluding here that Monster Extract is Malice would feel unsatisfying. Is there more information, maybe within the other Zelda games, that can contextualize Monster Extract more by understanding what Malice is? I mean, that's still a very empty thing to say that this is Malice. Well, let's begin at the very start of the Zelda timeline. Skyward Sword tells the story of the hero of the skies defeating the Demon King, Demise, who is the source of all monsters as explained by Fi. In his final moments, he curses Link and Zelda to the perpetual cycle of conflict that is to come for the next hundreds of thousands of years. You fight like no man or demon I have ever known. Though this is not the end, my hate never perishes. It is born anew in a cycle with no end. Those like you, who share the blood of the goddess and the spirit of the hero, they are eternally bound to this curse. In the Japanese version, this curse is born from the demon tribe technically, but I bring attention to the English version because hatred and greed is often associated with Malice. For example, cursed bokoblins reanimate through their hatred of this world. Although not explicitly stated, the curse that turned this family into spiders due to their immense greed sounds like it would have been done with a power like Malice. Giovanni is another individual that was cursed, but it was due to selling his soul for wealth, and fragments of his soul are kept by Poes. Judging by the soul pieces being purple, it seems that Malice has corrupted Giovanni's soul. In another example tying Malice to hatred and greed, the sages in Twilight Princess explain Ganondorf was banished into the Twilight Realm. His abiding hatred and lust for power turned to purest malice. Ganondorf eventually passes on his power onto Zant, who is also described as having eyes full of greed. And Ganondorf is believed to have a connection to Demise, and it's possible that this curse from the demon tribe and Demise's hatred refer to Malice. So, put simply, Malice is energy produced by a spirit full of hatred and greed. You may be wondering, what does the color purple have to do with Malice? Well, it seems that spirits are often illustrated as a golden yellow, bluish green, or black and purple color. A typical spirit will be this bluish-green color, as seen here with the champion spirits in Breath of the Wild, the people in Twilight Princess, or luminous stones, which are said to house spirits of the dead. A spirit can produce something called force, which is also known as gratitude crystals, life force, sacred force, and light force in different games, but they're all called force in Japanese games. So it's essentially the same thing. Every living being possesses force, and when someone is really happy or grateful, their force levels become strong. Those overwhelming feelings of gratitude and happiness causes a spirit to generate force. Force has been used in some creations, such as in Spirit Tracks. Malice's spirit was sealed underground with the power of force being carried across the spirit tracks. The spirit tracks started vanishing but were restored thanks to the hero, and upon their return, force is seen producing electricity. Zelda has a strong spirit which is illustrated in this golden yellow color, and it is often coveted by villains for its power. Although force isn't specified in Revali's diary, he does note that the divine beasts are operated with one spirit. They say one soul must contain an incredible sacred power for a divine beast to recognize them as master. Conversely, a purple spirit can be full of malice, which I believe is the juxtaposition to force. Just as force is generated with strong feelings of happiness and gratitude, malice is generated with strong feelings of hatred and greed. This power that's generated in monsters is likely what's causing so many of them to produce electricity. Take, for example, the common monsters that produce just modest amounts of electricity, such as choo-choos and blobs, or the bosses which, when they become more powerful, they transition into their next phases choreographed with electricity, such as the Imprisoned, Malladus, Vati, and Bellum. I'm confident that this isn't just something intrinsic to these monsters, because the power of Malice alone can generate electricity. We see it when the spirit tower is fragmented and surrounded by a purple electrical storm, and then we see it again with Calamity Ganon arising from Hyrule Castle. I mentioned a few of these things that can be done with force, but what about Malice? This evil power has been used to empower or heal monsters, and it's been used for a variety of curses, way more than I can fit into this video. But the important thing to understand with Malice is that it can possess. It can possess creatures, people, automatons like the divine beasts and guardians, or even spirits like Levias, the sky spirit, and Nadra, the spirit of ice. Malice can assume complete control over you, and it can do more harm than just that. Possession seems to also rob victims of their memories, and to explain this, I need to first talk about Bellum. Bellum is Phantom Hourglass's main villain, but it doesn't seem to be very sentient. It is a monster that operates on instincts, and it may be a good insight into understanding what are the intrinsic characteristics of Malice. Because this monster exists only to hunt and to eat, it seems to me to be Malice incarnate. Not to the extent of Calamity Ganon, but as close as a monster can get. Oshus, the Ocean King, explains that Bellum and monsters want to satiate their hunger with force. When Bellum eats force from its victims, it also consumes their memories. Thus, it can be reasoned that Malice consumes force, which causes memories to be lost upon possession. And this is why people that have been possessed often don't remember it. Darvis in Twilight Princess has no memory of fighting Link when he was possessed and turned into a monster. Linebeck, who was possessed for a very brief time, initially struggles to recall what had happened to him just moments before. Malice does not have intelligence, it only runs on primal instincts to eat force. This is why cursed bokoblin, moblin, and the Lizalfos skulls are described as devoid of any intelligence, and as attacking anyone that approaches. These monsters are operating on pure malice and it only wants to eat. The drive to eat force isn't unique to monsters, it is an intrinsic characteristic to malice itself. If monster extract is malice, and malice is very harmful, how could they even think of eating it? It isn't an unrealistic scenario. I mean, in the real world, people have figured out how to eat poisonous food safely. The bravery for humans to look at something and know it will kill them and still be like, I'm gonna eat that, often was a necessity for survival. Were there ever times that asked Hylians to use Malice's healing powers for survival? We already discussed the example with Monster Cake healing honey, but there's also this side quest with the Gerudo Melina. She was in desperate need of Molduga guts to make medicine for her ill husband, an item which is invaluable and hard to come by, and its use is shrouded in mystery. At this point in my research, it seems to be that the guts are used for its malice to cure illnesses that other healing potions or foods can't. Nintendo's Creating a Champion includes a note for bokoblin guts, which reads, "Looks like they contain evil energy," which means monster parts do contain malice. The residual energy within monster parts is why they're used for healing potions and elixirs. In A Link Between Worlds, red or blue potions heal Link, and the latter requires monster tails so that it can restore all hearts. In Wind Waker, the potion shop sells potions made from chew jelly. He enthusiastically describes them as a robustly nourishing element and a mystical substance that is good for the body and mind. The descriptions for all chew jelly drops are similar. There is a gelatinous goo that comes from deep within them. It's the chew's essence. This essence is yet another reference to malice. Chews themselves aren't the key ingredient, but rather it's malice. These blue potions, which are made from the rare blue chew jelly, can also be made from bokobaba seeds. Holo will brew blue potions for Link so long as he's provided with these seeds, which are described as the source of the monster plant's magic. The only commonality between blue chews and bokobabas is that they are monsters, and of course, as I've said a number of times now, all monsters contain malice. It isn't a stretch to claim that the best healing items Hylians have access to are made from monster parts. They have been known for making the most potent healing potions, and they have been used for otherwise incurable illnesses. What better reason could there be for the average Hylian, who is basically useless compared to Link, to venture out for monster parts, particularly from extremely dangerous creatures such as Moldugas or Lynels? Though monsters are terrifying, their claws, wings, and other parts can be useful and have been long prized by the people of Hyrule as raw materials. The stronger the monster, the higher the value of the part. Lynel and dragon parts are particularly prized. The only reason monster parts are coveted, the reason to ignore red bokoblins and go straight to Lynels, is for their higher potency and the stronger healing prowess found in the most dangerous monsters. These useless fucks can't even fight bokoblins. Like, every time Link encounters them, they're always being attacked. I have not seen any soldier or any traveler successfully defend themselves. So I don't know, I can't even imagine how they would take down a Lynel, for God's sake. Now, I thought this over for a very long time, and it was only when I was looking back on clips that I found a possible explanation for how monster extract is created. You see, an extract is a substance removed from a raw material, and there are a few methods to achieve this, but the important one to know is distillation. A distillation apparatus is seen in Wind Waker. It looks like a medieval style distillation, so the system doesn't use modern technology, but the principles are still there. In the far back is a round bottom flask, and presumably filled with water and another substance, which is heated by a flame. Vapor rises to the top end, and there steam is released, while the substance condenses and falls back down to the opposite end into a receiving flask. The remaining malice evaporates on its own because malice is extremely volatile, leaving behind what can be called an extract. Now, this one isn't purple, but we do see another distillation apparatus being used to release a darker cloud of Malice, leaving behind a purple substance into a different receiving flask. This could possibly be an older form of monster extract, which is then used in creating one of the many potions the shop sells. The scientist at Lakeside Laboratory, located at Lake Hylia, has what appears to be simple tubes and flasks with nothing that really looks like a distillation apparatus. However, the scientist explains he is researching the process of making medicine by mixing Lake Hylia's water with various unusual compounds. Could some of these unusual compounds be monster parts? He also explains that he mentored the witch who runs the potion shop in Kakariko Village, and if they both work with medicine, specifically potions, it makes it more possible that he's used monster parts. Since Wind Waker takes place after Ocarina of Time, it's possible that the lake scientist's research eventually led to the creation of chew-based potions. If this method of extracting healing items from Malice persists for thousands of years, it could explain how monster extract was created. A distillation would be ideal since Malice is very volatile and the healing component could be separated from its impurities, thus creating an ingredient safe enough for consumption. In conclusion, monster extract is purified Malice created from distillation. It is spiritual energy generated from strong feelings of greed and hatred, and this pungent flavor enhancer has potent healing capabilities. Well, I now feel very happy with what I have here. I'm so thrilled that I was able to figure this out. I honestly, at the beginning of the project, was thinking there's no way I'm going to figure this out. Like, there's just not enough information in Breath of the Wild. But once I played through all the other games, all the pieces started to kind of come together. I'm going to be making monster extract in the next video, and I will be using it to make monster stew. Thank you for watching. And I don't know, man, you do you.